Welcome back to the MetaMinds podcast, where we're all about relentless self-development and consciousness optimization.
And in this episode, we are talking about primal psychology and why every decision we make is based on primal psychology, and it's very important to know that if you don't know that. So some topics we're going to be covering in this episode is what is primal psychology, some of the secondary needs of primal psychology, are we just modern monkeys, and how we're being manipulated through these primal needs, and how to be aware of these primal needs and why it's important to be aware of them. So, Dan, would you like to kick us off on a bit of what is primal psychology?
Yeah. So, being animals as we are, we all have psychological urges or psychological needs, and to a lot of people out there, they're probably unconscious to you and you don't really recognize what these needs or drives are, but they've been within us as humans, as monkeys for forever. You know, we have these basic ones, which are food, water, shelter, socialize or social, and reproduction. And these are psychological drives that will perpetuate push us towards a certain direction, whether that is unconsciously or consciously. So for example, with food, that's something that we as humans need to operate and to fuel our bodies. And water. And water as well, combined together. We need them to drive our bodies, to drive this rig that we call the human being body. So yeah, they're obviously important for that reason. Shelter kind of goes in with clothing and warmth. So they're important for our well-being as well as...
To make sure you stay alive?
Yep, make sure you stay alive outside of the elements. And obviously it's probably a social convention to wear clothes as such, because technically you don't really have to, but they offer warmth as well. So there is a benefit to that. Socializing is something that's obviously been around forever, like when we're in tribes and as we progress through and as, we go through all of our life through business or school or whatever it is, all of those have an element of socializing to them. But to take it back to the caveman days, within a tribe, you would have a social tribe that would have their own roles to, either grab food or create shelter or whatever it may be, nurture for the children or whatever else. All of those things are within that social element. And then reproduction is literally like the core kind of urge that we have or drive to pass our genes on to the next generation. And that's something that is within us innately.
So to dumb all these down into one sentence, all these 5-6 basic human needs, we're calling it primal psychology because these are every decision we make are based off of one of these things so that we can stay alive.
Yes.
And so that, maybe our next generation can stay alive so that we as a human race, not just us in ourselves, can stay alive. And once you understand that pretty much every decision you make, whether you know it or not, is based off of one of these things, then you can really take a step back and understand a lot more about human psychology, about what we do as humans, and really laugh at a lot of the modern versions of these different things. So some other secondary needs, which are also extremely important, but not as important, so they will keep us alive. But these ones will actually keep us sane and healthy and these other things. And so there's a lot of different people that talk about these secondary needs, and there's a lot of different thoughts about them, but we found one from Anthony Robbins, which I believe I've heard in one of his audiobooks. And what he says is that you need certainty. Obviously, you need to know what's going to be coming. That's gonna help you. These are the secondary needs. You need variety. So obviously, variety is the spice of life. Can't have vanilla ice cream every time. Maybe you need to get chocolate. Significance. So again, you need to feel significant in your life. You need to be able to actually, someone go, oh, you did that thing. That's really cool, and that really is fulfilling to you because that means that you're fulfilling an actual purpose. Love and connection, which is similar to the previous one that we had. Connection is necessary, like having a social connection is necessary. That's going to keep you alive, that's going to help you grow and learn and keep you sane. But on a secondary, need, then it's a bit more of a luxury, to have other different friends you can converse with and obviously have a love that you can have a really intimate connection with a person. And the last two is growth and contribution. So obviously we need to grow. That's fulfilling to us. And contribution, whenever you actually help someone out, you finally get this little tingly feeling. That's because you're actually helping someone besides yourself.
You're doing something altruistic for someone else.
they're the kind of main and secondary kind of primal needs that we have. And to again sum it up, like pretty much every decision we make is based off of one of these things to help us either stay alive or grow. And it's very important to know this and to keep this at the forefront of your mind, because you know, in the caveman days that might have been extremely obvious. Me hungry, me need food. Me kill Cynthia because she looked tasty. Maybe not your own tribe, but you know, me kill chicken to keep me tasty or whatever.
Yes.
And you know, water, like we need to move from this cave to the next cave because that cave has water and that kind of thing. We weren't as consciously aware of it, obviously, but now there's so many more variables in this day and age, and a lot of these needs are manipulated by different people so that they can capitalize on your experience. 100%. And so yeah, I suppose to dive a little bit further into that, like we're just kind of modern monkeys, aren't we, Dan?
Yeah, we really are, yeah. And I guess, like you were alluding to before, lots of people, and I see a lot of corporations and companies really capitalizing on these needs, these drives or urges that we have within us. And like I mentioned earlier on, not everyone is aware of this. So if a company is going to try to capitalize on how hungry you are, they might utilize a time slot. So they might go, okay, well, lunchtime in this area, people will be hungry. So we'll have a radio, you know, advertisement at this point that will talk about the new X chip deal that we have or whatever, and they're capitalizing on a time frame, and they're capitalizing on people's hunger at that point. And you see it all the time, like companies use sex drive a lot of the time, so they will have overly sexual people in an advertisement to drive a product, and that is capitalizing on our, I guess, urge or drive as humans to go towards reproduction or have that urge to reproduce. So companies are aware of this, and it's one of those things that happens every day. If you try to look out for it, you will see it in pretty much every advertisement. They're trying to capitalize on these needs and these urges that we have.
So to dive a little bit deeper into each of these, and this is the real kind of shell of the podcast, pretty much every one of these triggered by cues to actually get us to act. You know, for example, so again, we're cavemen, we see a fruit on a tree. That's quite a rarity. The fruit was not extremely common, and we know that has sugar in it, and that sugar is going to give us energy and give us calories. And we need calories to survive, obviously. That's going to help us survive and thrive and have more energy. So we're going to go and pick that fruit, and we're going to eat that fruit. And sugar from fruit, sugar in apples, for example, you would eat one apple and you would feel relatively full from that because it has a lot of fiber in it, and that gives cues to your body to tell you that you're actually filling up. So you don't need so much of that. But we've developed 500 different types of sugar now, so that you can put it into a caramel slice, for example, and have, 100 times the amount of sugar you would get in a week into one small snack. And because your body is still trained from a primal point of view to survive and get as many calories as you can, which you can get through sugar and all these other things, because it was rare, basically, we see that and we go, oh, we know that we're going to get a reward from that, which is why sugar tastes so good, right? And carbohydrates and all these other things that were less common than some of the foods that we would find. And we would get that cue that triggers dopamine and serotonin in our brain, which says that we're actually going to survive for longer, which is really good for us, which is why that's in our bodies, basically. But we happen to evolve to be in this world of abundance where sugar and all these things are so readily available. And this might seem obvious to some people, but to a lot of people that you explain this to, they say, whoa, I didn't even think of this, And then you eat a caramel slice, and then all of a sudden you have one the next day as well. All of a sudden you just had 2 months worth of sugar that you would get as a caveman in 2 days.
Yeah.
And that's one of like 5 different sugary snacks. You have a Coca-Cola and you have a this and a that all throughout the day. And all of a sudden your body is going to overdrive, being like, what is going on? How am I getting all this sugar? How am I supposed to process this sugar?
Exactly right.
Your body hasn't adapted to realize that all this stuff is in abundance now, because, at any point it could get taken away from us, basically. And we would go back to that age where we need to crave these different things, which will help us survive. And so the other thing is we make decisions based on expending as little calories as possible, which is where I suppose people call people lazy from, But a lot of decisions we make are based on we want to expend as little calories as possible so that we can conserve those calories so that we can stay alive for longer as a ape running around, basically. You know?
We're basically a comfortable ape.
Yeah.
So we want to be comfortable all the time, and you see all these innovations in terms of like food that's delivered to your house, or, all of these services where they'll deliver products to your house, or anything can pretty much be delivered to you now, which creates this idea that really anything can come to your house. You don't have to leave the house. You can be a lazy ape that sits around as such. And with the note on the sugar as well, like you mentioned things that I guess obviously contain sugar, like the caramel slice or the Coke, but pretty much everything contains sugar. That's the crazy thing. Like they hide it in the way that they word certain things, or it's like a dextrose compound or whatever it is. Like it's always hidden within the wording. And if you look through your products, you'll notice that, something even like an oats bar, which is meant to contain oats, will have an abundance of sugar to create that flavor. And the crazy thing is, the sugar, your mind processes it from the pleasure centers. So you get that immediate, that hype, that hype feeling where you're like, I'm on sugar, this is great, it tastes amazing, my brain's firing all these neurons, I'm feeling fantastic. But then you do get those sugar crashes, and that's why a lot of people will, get tired near the end of the day and complain about that. And if you do change your diet and remove sugar, you'll notice more of a long-lasting energy through the day. And sugar being such an amazing sensation, it genuinely is classed as a drug within the health organizations. It's seen as a drug. So it's one of those things, like you said, that was something that you couldn't get a hold of. It was quite a rare thing, and now it's in literally everything. And going back to that point about companies abusing
manipulating your primal needs.
Yeah, so you're manipulating the primal needs through adding sugar to everything, and it becomes an addiction that you crave.
It's easy to make money off that, basically.
Yeah.
So if you can take a step back and realize that this thing, which has been a huge realization in my life, it's just taking a step back and realizing that thing, it can really alter your decision on whether or not to purchase some of these things. I mean, it shows you that, A, we don't need this. It shows you why that you want this thing. You don't need to be drinking Coca-Cola every day or ever. Yeah. But and it shows you how people are manipulating these needs, basically. The other thing is, so like gluten-free, for example. Gluten is seeds and grains that we have developed and grown through human processes. And this is why a lot of processed food is bad for us as well, because we can never get a hold of these foods and oils and things. They're very high in calories. That's why it tastes amazing, because again, it will help us stay alive longer because it's calories and fats, But yeah, we never had access to gluten. This is why a lot of people are gluten-free. I mean, some people are doing it for trendy reasons or whatever.
Yep.
But some people are doing it because their body literally can't handle it because it wasn't designed to handle it, We happen to make bread, and, bread can be tasty, but like our bodies, whenever bread goes into our bodies, if you look into the way our bodies process bread, it literally processes it as a poison, essentially. And it goes, oh, what is this? We have to stop everything we're doing and destroy this thing, basically. And this happens in all bodies, but gluten-free bodies, gluten-intolerant bodies, are more prominent to that. So that's just another small example, and there's a lot of different examples with food, but we've got a couple here to go over. So why don't we dive into clothing and shelter?
Yeah, okay. So this is still relating to, if we've kind of lost everyone, this is still within the modern monkey world. So this is primal urges affecting us currently in this current climate.
Yeah.
So with clothing and shelter, we kind of spoke about it a little bit before, but
the entire fashion industry, essentially.
Yeah, the entire fashion industry.
And home industry,
Yeah, and they really do capitalize on those primal urges, that primal psychology that we have within us. So yeah, you do see it all the time. These companies, I guess it also, for me, yes, they're trying to advertise a product that could keep you warm or makes you look trendy or whatever it is, but it also is like combining both the image, so the social element or the status, I guess, of you, as well as that need to be warm, because everyone wears clothes unless you're a nudist. So companies literally can combine the two to create this combination of the social element, that status, as well as the need for
clothes. It's social convention as well.
It is as well, yeah.
Because it's like we don't actually need clothes a lot of the time in certain climates. We're in Australia here, and when it's 30 degrees at the time, I would love to be walking around with no shirt on most of the time, you know what I mean? But it just so happens that if you walk down the shops with no shirt on, you might get arrested, you know what I mean? Because that's a social convention that has been constructed. And we used to be much hairier creatures, we used to be much hairier apes, but our bodies have developed to not have as much hair because it goes, oh, we don't need it to keep us warm because it seems that we're using clothes. You know what I mean?
That's it.
So again, this is a social convention that has been conditioned into us, and it seems evolutionarily our bodies have caught up a little bit. But it's actually caused quite a lot of different problems, from like skin problems and different things, and has caused us to adapt in different ways that haven't actually been as beneficial to us because we're putting these fabrics on us that sit on our bodies all day that aren't 100%. Really meant to be there, you know? Which again, we've developed through human processes that have... So,
and I guess, I don't know if this will really click with anyone, but I've looked into a little bit of the research behind wearing clothes to bed and the fact that it is restraining like any sort of sweat, and it's not allowing your body to naturally like cool down on its own. So again, that's a synthetic man-made thing, or a convention that people have created. And a lot of people will go to bed fully clothed, or they wear jumpers, or they wear socks or whatever, but it doesn't allow your body to disperse the sweat or disperse heat because it's confined, it's trapped within the clothing. So there are actual there's research into that to say that it is
well, now we
not
all
beneficial.
know how you sleep, Ben.
Sometimes I wear a jumper though with a hood on, which is weird.
You do actually, yeah, I've seen that. So the other thing is shelter. You know, we talk about caveman. We had a cave, right, or whatever it may be. It could have just been a small rock, or we made it out of little tree things, basically. Whatever shelter we needed to stay away from the elements, basically, and stay alive for the evening. Maybe stop tigers from seeing where we are and that kind of thing, and coming and killing and eating our babies or whatever. And so now we live in homes, or at least the very lucky ones of us do, basically, or shelters or shanties or whatever. And again, this like status of wealth, you buy a mansion, basically. Do you need as one or two people to live in a 500 meter square building? Absolutely not. But to show this status again, and to show your social hierarchy, to show that you have a higher value than other people, which is again a social or primal psychological cue, basically. You get a ridiculous mansion and a very large car. But realistically, and this tiny house movement has come along, you can live in a 20 square meter place extremely comfortably.
And all of your needs can be met. So,
but I guess what I'm saying is a lot of we're manipulated in this way that we do need shelter to survive, basically. I don't know about you, I sleep on the street every night, but and so like a lot of the housing market exists, basically. When in reality we could all live in like these boxes that all look the same, but because one of our secondary needs, and we're lucky enough to have these secondary needs and meet these secondary needs, is variety, then we all want a different house. And I want my house to have a bidet on the toilet. I want my house to have a fairy wall, or whatever it is,
Or Metamine's live streamed in every room.
Whatever it is for your house. I know what my house has. So these are all manipulated and capitalized on, basically. Through these different industries, and these are all primal needs that we have, basically. And it's unfortunate the way the what's the word? Society that we live in is trending towards that people need more money to survive so that they can actually live in these houses. So they're becoming slaves to working so they can actually get enough food to survive. Which, we talked about sugar before, but the other thing is obviously we need food to just survive, actually to stay alive and to thrive, And so a lot of people are manipulating food through changing the actual genetic makeup of the food.
100%,
so that they can capitalize on the way we purchase food and
their process for creating it. And like there's with 3D printing coming through, they're making 3D printed patties, they're making 3D printed everything, because they can basically get any material or any protein strain and put it through a machine to then replicate it and create some sort of synthetic artificial product that is still technically using a protein from whatever that thing is.
Clean meat is on its way.
But it's
this is why the whole dairy and agriculture industry exists. I'll throw my little vegan stab in here. Is that they're capitalizing on the fact that we used to kill animals because we needed that to survive as cavemen, basically. But now we've evolved to a point where we don't actually need that, and we can just eat fruits and vegetables to survive. Look at this vegan propaganda coming out, basically.
But like we've got the abundance there, so you can.
So we don't actually need to kill all these cows, which are actually creating methane, which is destroying the planet, basically. But we're still doing it because people still associate this need with eating animals when the science says otherwise. That's a whole other thing, though.
That is.
So social, social media.
Oh, yeah.
To start with. Basically, we needed social connection to, for fulfillment, for growth, so we can learn off each other and things like that. And yeah, obviously it helped us learn and grow and feel like we're a part of a tribe, and our tribe is all around us. And this is what we talked about in the last episode, is meeting people over the internet that have specific things that you are into, specific niche things that you're into, because it helps you feel like you're a part of that culture. It just happens that culture isn't in physical environment anymore. But we're being conditioned through social media, manipulated through social media, and our social needs aren't actually being met
Not
in
at all.
the way that they're supposed to be met, which is why this depression and everything is so rampant nowadays, because we're just not actually getting the real social interaction that we need, that we need to have, real physical, looking at people in the eyes and things like that.
And that transference of nonverbal cues and the energy in the room as you have an amazing conversation, that can't be replicated. And we're the most connected we've ever been, but we're also the most disconnected. And I believe that a lot of this anxiety and depression and a lot of these conditions, not like, calling anyone out or anything, but I believe that it could be improved if you looked for genuine social interaction and you tried to connect with people in the real world, whether it's your family or friends, instead of looking for that online connection, because you will notice that you'll feel depleted if you don't have any social interaction. And you and I talk about this a lot, but when we're on our personal brand, we on that personal brand vibe, like we'll connect with people and we'll feel really fulfilled, and it's great to connect with people all over the world. But there's a point where you'll be sitting there and you're on your own, sitting at a computer, and you're not getting that transference of energy, because there's no energy being transferred through text. Yes, you can send videos to people, which is a bit better, or voice or whatever, but it's just not the same as being in the room with someone. And there are psychological needs that are not being met through social media. So it really is important to understand that and be aware if you are feeling depleted, that maybe you're using social media too much. Maybe you need to
even just
reconnect.
Just phones,
or just phone in general. I
think pretty much everyone can agree that they've had experiences where you just have a conversation with someone. It's like either a cute girl at a cafe or one of your close friends or your mother or father or something, and you leave that conversation feeling energized, or like something they said changes a perception that you had on something else that you couldn't realize if you were just reading it off a phone or something, and you literally feel a different way, basically.
For sure.
And sometimes it's more prominent, sometimes it's not, but like that literally is gonna, if that gives you life, that gives you happiness and fulfillment, and it's crazy the effect that it has on people. And it's actually not crazy, but because it's not commonly understood, it is crazy, and it does need to be pointed out, that it's like when you put your phone down for a whole day and you just talk to people in real life. But again, it's much easier said than done.
Yes.
But extremely important, basically. And look, we're only touching the surface of this issue. It's much deeper than it is. But the point of this podcast is to just kind of help spread some awareness on the fact
that's
that
all it is.
Everything we do is based on this primal psychology and these basic human needs, because we're all dumb monkeys basically that think we're smarter than they are. And some of us are, but
for sure, but
more often than not, we're still just apes that go
acting on urges.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's all it is. Yeah. And I guess the final point about reproduction, we covered it before, but a lot of these companies will utilize overly sexualized advertisements, or they'll utilize some sort of sexy persona to really push the concept of a product, and that's really tapping into innate urges to want to reproduce. And that comes in forms of seeing attractive people. That can still be seen as a form of reproduction. Yeah. Because obviously the same drives, the same urges will come up from seeing that image or seeing that video. So again, they're capitalizing on that. And as a lot of advertisers will say, sex sells.
Yeah.
So
because it does.
Because it does.
Because it's the number one thing that we have. If we have food and water and shelter, then the next thing on our mind is we need to reproduce that we can keep this race alive.
And we're comfortable apes now with all of that. So that's a big selling point, I'm sure.
And this is why porn is a very dangerous industry, because it gives men all of that fulfillment without the actual human connection as well. So you get the dopamine and the serotonin and trigger all these things in your brain, but you don't actually get the not melatonin. What is the chemical that you get from connecting with people? Oxytocin. That's the one. Yep. Thanks for remembering.
I think that's the one. Yep.
Yeah, that's the actual thing that gives you that. That's what you get from connecting with people, basically. And so there's a lot of these dangerous industries out there. And it's the same with Magic Mike or whatever. It's the same. It's the same for women. They get that
or
that hit.
50 Shades of Grey, another example. Yeah.
They get that hit that is cueing to them that they are doing the natural thing by reproducing, but they're not actually doing it. It's just telling them, when I see that thing, I'm I'm fulfilling that need, but it's not actually being fulfilled, but their brain thinks it is.
For sure. As well. It's like a laboratory experiment almost. It's a synthetic way of producing those urges as such.
Well, because it sells, then
it works.
Then obviously people are going to do it so they can make money off it, so then they can have higher status.
That's it.
But another thing I wanted to touch on this is that the reason why stereotypically and generally people that go to the gym are more attractive to the opposite sex than people who don't. And the reason is because like big muscular guys, if a girl is into that, which more often than not you would, they could agree that is an attractive cue, that is an attractive feature. Whether they don't have to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, but just have a little bit of muscle, because that is a cue to another human. Say you're a caveman, that you're lifting rocks all day and you're putting those rocks in a pile to build up your big shelter, and you're going out and you're killing all the animals. So that's a cue to the opposite sex to say, oh, he's pretty strong, which means he can like provide for the family with food and shelter and water a lot.
Protect me.
And protect me. That's the hugest thing. So it's like, oh, I'm attracted to that, basically. And that's a primal instinct, basically. And similarly for the opposite sex, basically, we see a woman with wide hips and we go, oh, Dem Bervin hips. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that is going to create a, child, basically.
Yes.
And this is the whole thing that we're talking about is that these are different cues. It just so happens that in this modern world, we don't lift rocks all day unless you're a tradie, basically. You have to actually physically go to a room that we've built that is that has metal objects in it that you lift up and down that gets you to that same state, which cues to the opposite sex this primal need that he's strong because he built a house, but really he's strong because he went to a gym, which is still a cue that like they're working their body, which like they're actually pushing themselves and they're motivated to do things. So but it's just so interesting, and I'm fascinated by this, and I've been fascinated by it for years, like that pretty much every decision everyone makes is based off of one of these needs, and the sooner you can kind of get a grasp on this and kind of keep it at the forefront of your mind, you can observe how other people act under these circumstances. You can observe how you act as well, and realize just how simple like we are as humans. We
really are.
We're just dumb apes, really. Like some people, Elon Musk, he got lucky, right? He's pretty smart. Okay, a little bit pretentious, very smart though. Look, and no, we're all very, very intelligent. We're self-aware, and that's what separates us from a lot of different animals, right? But that doesn't make us this all-seeing eye, whatever. We're still the same as a dog. Look, you look at a dog, and that's the reason it looks at you all cute, because it wants your food, because it wants to survive, and that's 100%. Where that comes from. You know, we're exactly the same. We just happen to know that we can talk about this. Just happen to you associate yourself with someone called Dan. I associate with myself with someone called Eamon. Got meta there for a second, didn't we?
It did. I'm pretty sure you covered the final point, but it's really just being aware of that and trying to monitor what's happening. So within advertisement, within people around you, within your behaviors and feelings, if you really localize that feeling and understand where that feeling is coming from, if it is a primal psychology within you that's making you feel that way, then potentially you might not change how you react, but at least you're aware of it so that you can change it or understand why you're doing that thing. So it's not you just blindly going through life going, I'm going to act on this, I'm going to act on this, because it's an unconscious thing. So I think there's a lot of power in being aware of these urges and desires and
limiting a lot of the information that you consume through TV and other stuff, because advertising, it really does, even if you just see a woman in a Bonds ad or whatever and she's dancing around in her underpants, whatever, that can trigger your mental capacity, like, trigger you to act in a different way, basically. Or Coca-Cola again, it's like that, we're being manipulated at every single turn based on things that we need to do. And that's okay. People want to make money. This is how it is, but
just be aware of that.
Because I already buy a lot of clothes that I don't need, but this is most likely based off of this. But anyway, super interesting stuff, and there's a lot to dive deep in it. And again, we only scratched the surface, I'm sure. But thank you everyone on Livecast. Is it?
It's on Castbox. This is a live cast.
Thank you everyone for tuning into our live cast on Castbox. We're doing this live, just so you know. But if not, thanks for checking this out on YouTube and or Spotify and or one of the other 15 platforms that we're on, or
even Instagram.
We have some spicy content on there.
Facebook.
Thank you for joining us on this one, and we will see you next week on the MetaMinds podcast.